With me in the studio is a very special guest, Dr. Jack Taunton, regarded by many as the father of running in BC. He has run 63 marathons, 30 of them in under 2 hours and 30 minutes. He's a renowned sports medicine doctor and a visionary for co-founding British Columbia's first road running club, the Lionsgate Roadrunners. He's also helped start the Vancouver Marathon and the Vancouver Sun Run. Welcome to the show, Doctor's Corner. Really happy to have you back, Dr. Taunton.
Thank you, it's Jack.
Yeah,
Thanks, Christine. Happy New Year.
So we're here today to talk about the gender run study and the alternate load study, right?
Right.
So tell us about the gender run study.
Well, Christine, it's interesting with the amount of research we've done and people have done around the world. Surprisingly, nobody had looked at the difference between injuries in women and men. Everybody thought that women got injured more than men. So we said, okay, we've got to find out for sure, because it's, it's critical. We now know from the research that we've done that over 65% of the participants in the mass races, are women. And so that's a significant, contributor to the competition and potentially to injury. So we did a study with 100 men, 100 women, did extensive baseline testing to see if we could predict who got, injured. We trained them for 12 weeks, 4 days a week, and then they ran a 10K, much like training for the Sun Run. And at the end of the day, actually, the men got injured more than the women. It wasn't significant, so they were pretty close, but men did get injured more than women. The women had different injuries. And because of the baseline testing, the #1 problem always for all the runners is always problems about the knee and patellofemoral pain around the kneecap. And we could predict from the baseline testing that we did with these women between 58 and 60% of the reason the women got knee pain. And that was related to an imbalance in the hip girdle. They were very strong in their hip extensors, but weak in their hip flexors. So lifting your leg up, surprisingly, they were weak. Their dynamic balance was poor. And again, that put torque, about the pelvis and the kneecap. They had a significantly greater leg length discrepancy or pelvic asymmetry. So you need to work with your physiotherapist to get that identified. You may need a heel lift. The individuals that got injured ran with a low amount of pain. They just accepted it. But if you do have pain, and you're continuing to train, yes, it'll come back and bite you.
Yes.
And whereas with the men, they were weak not in their hip flexors, they were weak in their gluteal muscles and tight in their iliotibial band, and they were tight in their calves. So that when you're working with a run leader or your physiotherapist, for the men and the women, you've got to really make sure you're strong in the core. Really make sure your hip girdle is, is well balanced. Make sure your leg length. If you've got a prior injury, we already knew that with prior injuries, that if you didn't have it properly rehabilitated, just like that low-grade pain that people, try to put up with, that pain is there for a reason. Find out what it is.
Now we're in the progress, I should say, or the process of doing the alternate load study.
Right, so, it was interesting. When we first started analyzing, like the very first, taking us way back, I've just read Phil Knight's book on the story of the shoe dog, the story of Nike. And I can remember Phil saying, well, we've done the first, or his orthopedic surgeon, Stan James in Eugene, had done the first overuse running study. There was 70 athletes in the study. That year, Doug Clement and I did a study of 1,811 runners. and then we did them of 5,000 runners. Well, we've been monitoring injuries and looking at factors which, you know, are related to injuries. And so with the Sun Run, and as you say, I was along with Seawall Race and the marathon and so on, been involved in those, and we had identified that in the Sun Run, with that training, we did 3 studies with my research team coordinated by Michael Ryan, who you've had here. We identified that there was 29 to 30% of those individuals in that walk-run program got injured. Well, we have now started a study, alternate load, that pilot work very recently has shown that if you took 2 pair of shoes and you cycled them in the week, so you didn't just run in 1 shoe all week, you had 2 pair of shoes, that reduced running injuries by 18%.
Wow.
So then we said, okay, what happens if we randomly assign 4 different shoes? We'll put you in a Garmin watch, or at least half of them, and we will then have 1 steady state training, 1 load. The other load is alternate, speed work, tempo, you know, country, hills, and then endurance. And in that group, the overall group, and we've just finished the first half, which is 150, that we had only 18% of people got injured, not 30. 18. Now we're starting and we're recruiting, and if you're on Facebook, you'll see the alternate load study. Michael's tremendous wife, Richter Marnie Ryan, she is recruiting, and we're doing the baseline testing as we speak.
Wow.
On the weekend, we've tested now half of the 150 with baseline testing. We'll start in March, end of March, early April. We'll be training out of Fillmore Store, Lady Sport. The last one was in North Vancouver. And at the end of the 12 weeks of training, they run not a 10K, but a half marathon.
Okay.
So we're looking at the effect of different shoes, different types, you know, of training, and see if we can, with the baseline testing like we did with the gender study with my graduate student Maha that we had here, can we predict and can we reduce running injuries? And this is going to all come together. I'm putting on a large, really world-class running symposium the day before the Sun Run. And it will be done at BC Place Stadium. And there'll be more that you'll read about, and you'll hear by you, and with Lynn Kanuka, with her column in the Sun, you know, and so on. So that our whole objective, as we're bringing more and more individuals in, and we've got a very exciting postdoctoral student working with us, that we can reduce injuries. And we can work with the shoe companies. These 4 shoes, they've been made specifically for the tempo run. Another one specific for speed, endurance. And does that reduce injury?
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Taunton, for coming on the show, and we'd like to have you come back.
Well, thank you.
And we'll be right back after this break.